Welcome to episode 154 of Girl Take the Lead, where each week we explore womanhood and leadership. And I'm your host, Yo Canny. Today we conclude our conversation with Andrea Mein DeWitt, and we'll get into reframing feedback, accepting a compliment, flying helicopters into stormy weather, and end with some healing words. And remember, you can pre-order her workbook, which is a perfect companion if you have the original book, Name, Claim, and Reframe. And that workbook launches April 30th. Please enjoy the lesson. Here you go. Well, another area that we've covered a lot on the show has been like feedback, because that is something that a lot of us get. And talk about fear. It's like it's somebody's got power and they're, assessing you or whatever that is, the feedback. But you say that there's some good things about the feedback for us to
There
take a
can
look
be,
at.
I think oftentimes we convert feedback to criticism. We
Mhm.
don't take advantage of really sifting and sorting it. And I think initially the first layer is that we give other people's opinions way too much power and we let other people's opinions define us, and we don't have to.
Yeah.
Um, I, the first number one thing about feedback, Yolanda, is that it's not about you. It's about the person giving the feedback, what their preferences are, what they
Mhm.
care about, what their core beliefs are. If it's from your boss giving you feedback, you probably want to listen to that feedback. But if it's from your next door neighbor, you probably don't need to listen to it. You can just say, thanks so much, and throw it out.
Yeah.
So it's about, is this, do I care about what this person thinks or do I not? And
Yeah.
so, do I need to listen to it even at all? And I think when it's really comes to the next point about sifting and sorting it. What is useful to me and what do I need to throw out? I
Yeah.
think we give way too much of our good energy over to people that really don't matter. So sift and sort it. Um, the feedback that stings the most is the feedback that attaches to the limiting beliefs, like those core wounds that we talked
Oh,
about,
yeah. I can see that.
right?
Yeah.
So you think, I always ask the question, okay, that feedback kind of stung. So what tale is my inner critic spinning about that feedback? So let me just look at it, and again, I can use, what I know about the inner critic and sort of sift and sort it that way, and think, oh, that's that old belief I had when I was 6. It's really not gonna work anymore. I mean, I will say I was a late reader, and so I have total feedback about misspelling words and things because I'm a terrible speller. Thank God for spell check. And so I'm super like, if I get feedback that there's a typo, I go crazy. And so I think, you know what, it's fine. So just own it. Say, oh, let me do that again.
Yeah.
Oops, feedback. Oops, typo. Oops, I've done that. So I think, if you meet it head on, again, it's like Brene Brown says, with shame, when you own it and you go, oh, whoops, laugh at it, then it goes away.
Yeah. It
The
doesn't have the
final thing
power.
about feedback is that, you can actually target feedback. I mean, you can ask for feedback. If somebody gives you feedback, you can say, and they don't give you the feedback you need, you can say, oh, thanks so much for telling me that. But actually, what I really want to know is this. You can
Mm.
actually ask for the feedback that you need. And I think that's talk about taking your power back.
Mhm.
I am really glad that you liked that episode about this, but I really want to know about the episode about this because I was really trying to get this done. Did it land on you that way or did it not? And so you can really get the feedback that is going to match your goals for the future. And
Mhm.
that's really taking your power back strategically and resourcefully.
Um,
Ask for what you need.
that That's amazing. This the opportunity to ask for what we
Yeah.
need.
I mean, always, I mean, I think bottom line with feedback, and I'm going to go back to my first one, is it's not about you.
Yeah.
And you get to decide how you interpret that feedback.
Yeah.
You really do.
There was a point in the book about compliments that,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a surprise to see, but it was like a delightful thing to see about compliments. And there was a great quote, I think from your mom, that
Yeah.
started that chapter. So I think you need to share that quote.
I do. And my mother always says, and I told her, Mom, you're quoted in the book. She just turned 90. So she's very excited to be quoted. When someone's giving you a compliment, never interrupt.
Isn't
I
that
mean,
great?
seriously, think about it. We don't we lock we don't know what to do when someone gives us praise. We don't know what to do. I mean, we want it. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I go back to the core wound. I am not enough. Well, if you get a compliment, you are enough. You're more than enough. You're getting a compliment. And so I struggled with compliments. And again, because I interpret any kind of feedback as criticism. So of
Right.
course, that person is probably not going to take a compliment. And I know I'm not alone. Think about when you give people compliments.
Yeah.
They bat them away like a
Yeah.
skilled tennis player.
And so is it just that it's input for us that doesn't jive with how we think we
Well,
are?
I think there's prompts in my book that will help you to dive into that. I
Mhm.
mean, it could be that A, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
It could be that I don't believe it, they're not just being nice. It can be that's not the compliment I wanted. And
Mhm.
are they is that, is it kind of are they dissing me? I mean, like you start to interpret it in
Yeah.
all sorts of ways, and it just gets to be you go down a terrible road, or you think that you dodge it and then you compliment the person back. So you don't even receive the compliment.
Yeah, because it's
So, yeah, it's and also we're not supposed to, take up too much space, God forbid, that we would actually acknowledge that we look nice in the dress that the person just complimented. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons, and
yeah.
I do a whole inquiry about your relationship to praise in the workbook, which is really interesting. But I do want to share, yo,
Mhm.
an incredible trifecta that one of my colleagues, Trisha Bollinger, gifted me, and she's allowed me to use it. When you accept a compliment, it's a three-part process. First, you provide the praise a safe place to land by literally catching it and saying, thank you. The second thing is that you receive the praise with gratitude and just let it like take it in, let it flow over you like it's sparkly, like confetti. Just let it flow over you, just receive it. You say thank
Mhm.
you, you let it receive, let it land and kind of flow over you like confetti. And then the third part is to celebrate that this is your light out in the world. People are seeing you for whatever their compliment. Maybe they complimented you on that amazing podcast you did, or that incredible program that you ran, or that lasagna you made, or the way that whatever it is.
Yeah. Purple
I
streak perhaps in there?
I mean, I think, hard things like, people have complimented me on letters I've written to them about, a sympathy letter. They'll say, God, that's the nicest sympathy letter I've ever received. Well, that's a really nice compliment. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that it landed on me that way. Thank you.
Oh, that's such a great example of grace.
It is because when you don't accept someone's compliment, that's like throwing a gift back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to receive, it's easy to give, it's much harder to receive.
Yeah.
And I've really it's still a practice, I will admit. it's still a practice that I have to catch myself, and all you have to say is thank you. That's all that's required,
Mhm,
is just
mhm,
thank you.
mhm.
And what's interesting is the other piece of compliments is that the things that are easy for us to do, we don't think are superpowers, but others see the things that are easy for us to do, and they admire. This is have admiration for what we're doing,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. Someone
Exactly.
sees something you're doing and they admire it. Wow, that's an
Yeah.
mountain.
Yeah.
Ooh, take it in,
Yeah.
swim in it, dance.
Yeah. Okay, listeners, you got a great piece of advice there. Let's all take it in and
Really.
go with it. Another quote that I loved was something I think you wrote about flying helicopters.
Yes, yes, flying helicopters. Um, the quote is, and it, why would you fly your helicopter into a hurricane? I mean, and what it really means is, I mean, we all have to go into environments that we don't feel safe in.
Mm,
Maybe it's a family gathering, or maybe it's a meeting at work where you think, I'm not feeling good about this.
yeah.
And so I have a whole exercise and sort of mindset perspective, grounding in building creating the provisions and the mindset that you need before you enter a hurricane that where you don't feel safe. What do you need? What mindset do you need? What core values are you going to take with you? What overall goals do you have? And if sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. So claim some core values that you're going to really hold with reverence when you go into that meeting. If you can get out of there still holding onto those core values, you're gold.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always say, oh my goodness, I have to fly into a hurricane. And it's true. I mean, sometimes helicopters do have to fly in hurricanes, but they make sure that they've got everything they need and they take the provisions. So always you do have the choice
Hmm.
to fortify yourself with everything that you need to be completely authentically you and in integrity.
Beautiful. And I like when you said you decide what you want out of it. Like it's almost like I used to do this with myself when I would have my performance reviews where I would sit down with my boss and I would say, okay, success for this meeting looks like how did I handle the review? Not necessarily did I get a 4.0, which I never did, but how did I handle it? And did I handle it with, as you said, the core value of perhaps, you know, openness, some kind of um, way of looking at it and listening so that there was mutual respect um, by establishing what is important to me in that moment, going into that difficult situation, then I know, like you said, whether, it, I get to choose how I look at it.
Well, I mean, I always ask myself the question before I go into a situation, who do I want to be in
Mhm.
this situation? I want to be the person that elevates the energy of the room. I want to be calm and collected. I want to have a goal. I want to get out of there feeling like I owned these three core values that I claimed.
Mhm.
When you were talking about a performance review, I was thinking, gosh, that's feedback, isn't it?
Mhm.
So the fact that maybe you didn't get 5 stars, well, feedback only tells you about that person's core
Yeah.
values. So, you get to choose like, okay, these are the things I want to get feedback on from him. So I want to know this. You notice I
Yeah.
said him, maybe it was a her. Could have been a her. I want to, I'm going to target the feedback I want. I want to know this, and I want to know this, and I want to know this. Those are the three things I want to come out knowing.
Yes.
Those are the things I want, those things I want to improve on. That's the vision I have for myself.
Yes.
There's something right,
Yes.
right there.
It's so good.
You know,
It's so good,
it's
Jody.
really about, I mean, I think about, and you always get to choose again, and I go back to the Comcast. It's like I'm like seem to lose my patience on the phone with I'm trying to talk to these poor people. I'll say, I'm getting really impatient, and I don't know if you're understanding it. I'm sorry if I was short with you. Let me ask again in a different way, because I don't want to be that impatient, angry, snotty person. I
Right.
don't, that's not who I want to be. I was being her. So let me ask again. And they could say no. They could say, no, you're horrible. I'm gonna hang up on you. You could say, I'm going to ask a different way. And when you do that, you disarm people. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, this person just called themselves out for their bad behavior. I mean, I want to follow the leader that apologizes. There's people don't apologize enough. Gosh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry I lost my temper. Let me ask again. So it's been a long day. That doesn't excuse my behavior. Let me ask a different way.
Yeah. Beautiful. So the last thing in that I'd like to cover in the episode is, and I'm not going to say the Hawaiian name, I'm going to let you handle the Hawaiian name, but it's the healing words. They're so beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I will. They are beautiful, aren't they? The healing words are a chant called Ho'oponopono. And they are, please forgive me. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Thank you. I love you.
Mhm.
But before I go into how to do those healing words, I want to give you a context for why Ho'oponopono is in there. I have a section of the book, and I think some people may just use this part of the book, the workbook. It is a module all about healing past conflict. There's not any of us on this beautiful sphere that we live on that haven't experienced conflict and have regrets about it. Maybe it was something you did to somebody, maybe it was something somebody did to you, and we always have, it's like a trunk of junk we carry along with us. And the idea of reframing is taking and harvesting, learning, and finding peace and ease and forgiveness. Joseph Campbell says that when, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but when you forgive, you set a prisoner free, and
Mhm.
you realize that prisoner was you. And I found when I was writing the workbook, that I did this whole module, and it's beautiful, but it was like unfinished. Like we needed a namaste at the end of it. And so the Ho'oponopono is that namaste. And it really means it means to make right and establish harmony. It was a Hawaiian meditation that is ancient, that shamans had, and a Hawaiian clinical psychologist, Dr. Len, started it back, and I'm not sure in the years he started it, but it had a rebirth, and it is so beautiful, and it
Mhm.
goes like this. So when you say forgive me, you ask forgiveness. And why not ask for forgiveness? I mean, that's such a beautiful thing. You ask forgiveness, you take ownership for your part of the conflict. When you say, I'm sorry, it's repentance. I mean, you believe, I'm sorry. Whatever landed, I'm sorry that it landed on you that way.
Mhm.
Thank you. You know, when we say thank you, you're just, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being in the world with me. And then I love you. You lead with love.
Mhm.
And you forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And you repeat it over and over again, 7, 8 times. What I want to say about Ho'oponopono is that I have done it many, many times. And every single time I've done it, at the end of it, I feel so much better.
Mm.
But more remarkably, more often than not, the issue that I have had with whoever the person is, magically something happens where it comes back where that person might call me or send me a text, or the next time I see them, there's not an issue. I mean, it is there's something otherworldly about it. It brings such calm to you that I am so delighted to be able to include it. And I bought like 3 different books and read them because I really wanted, this is not anything I made up, but it is somewhat magic.
It
And
is.
um, I encourage you, if you do nothing else with the workbook, look up Ho'oponopono. It will bring you such peace and calm, and definitely lower your cortisol levels.
Well, it's interesting when I think people pull from the workbook, right? And our questions for my questions for you were like things that jumped out at me, like when I was reading your book and I went, oh, this is this is so good. I mean, there were so many things in there, and we could go on for a couple more days talking
You're
about it.
so you're you know I love it. I mean, how can I not love hearing this? But it also there's something for everybody. I hope
Yeah,
there's something, and I want your listeners to know that they don't have to use it in order. They can pull out different pieces that resonate for them. I think there's something for everybody. And my hope is that this will be a companion guide to their lives that they can go in and use. I think this workbook would be an incredible tool, in the office. If you're struggling. I have a client that tells me that she goes in and she uses the masculine and the feminine balance your response before she goes into meetings. Who do I want to be before I
right.
go into this meeting? If you have, if you're struggling with a review you've gotten, you can use the feedback. You
Yeah.
know, there's so many things that you can use again and again.
What's so nice in the book too, you have the core values all listed out, and we've talked a little bit about above the line and below the line, and we covered a lot of that in our first episode. So I'll make sure that that's in the show notes so someone can go and check that out. And you've got that in the workbook. I mean, it's just a complete work of art, really. So
Wow,
congratulations on it.
I'm gonna say thank you. I'm gonna take that in and let it wash over me, and just feel wonderful that you see that light. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's end our episode, and we want to tell our listeners where they can get your book and how they can find you and follow you.
Well, my book, the Name, Claim, and Reframe Workbook, Your Path or Your Companion Guide to a Well-Lived Life, is available wherever books are sold. It's being released April 30th. Um, and and my book is also available too. And if you like both of them, you don't need the original book for the workbook, but it's fun to have the context. You can find me at AndreaDeWittAdvisors.com. I am doing a whole series of what I'm calling NCR, name, claim, and reframes, theme salons, where I do them once a month, and they're themed around the different parts of the workbook. And I call them a midday mocktail for the mind. So come join us. I'm going to be doing speaking engagements and all sorts of cool stuff in the coming years. So,
Right.
thank you so much for having me on. It was
Oh,
a
it was so
pleasure.
wonderful to have you back, and I'm looking forward to the next book. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening today, and we sure hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Tell a friend about us. Join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or visit our website, girltaketheleadpod.com. We also have a YouTube channel where your subscription would be appreciated. Once you're on YouTube, search at Girl Take the Lead. And we've recently expanded into YouTube Music, where you can find a video of this episode. So here's the 3 takeaways from this series. 1, The 9 core wound beliefs can help us outline our negative core beliefs and the personality we develop to compensate for those. 2. The people pleasing inner critic is rooted in fear and is focused on earning love. 3. We should remember what Andrea's mom had to say about accepting a compliment. Quote, when someone is giving you a compliment, never interrupt. Next week, we have another guest and author, Amber Ontiveros, another not to miss episode for sure. Amber's book is called Heal the Four Woundings, a guide to end discord and discrimination. Amber's story begins with a near-death experience which altered her life forever. She recognized the limitation of traditional racial equity conversations and is innovating the way we think about unconscious bias, core wounds, and our happiness. Please join us again. Thanks for being here and talk to you soon. Bye.